It's currently May 2020 and we are all in lockdown. So I was having some conversations with my friends, musician friends, about how we could improve the way we live stream because we're forced not to play any live concerts, and streaming seemed to be the only way we could still do what we like best, which is performing. I have a few tips that are generic for recording video, and the first one is use a very powerful light in front of you. I am actually using a cheap light I got from Amazon, but it's very big and it has a diffuser, so the camera doesn't need to be set too sensitive and the image quality would get degraded in that case. And that is the same actually with the phone. Doesn't matter what camera or phone you're using, the better the light, the better the picture quality. Another thing that I would like to point out is that I tried to use autofocus during the live stream and it kept on going in and out of focus and I didn't like it. So I just set it, my lens is not very deep, doesn't have too much depth of field. So I don't need to be perfectly still to be in focus. Once I focus my face, I'm good to go. Even if I move a little bit, it's not that dramatic. Of course, you can see the guitar and my record on the background are blurry, but that's far from me. So everything I do in this area is kind of in focus. You can actually use an app to put yourself in focus. I am using my older phone to run the Panasonic app to put the DSLR camera on focus, which is really cool. I don't have to reach for the camera and tweak the focus. I can do it directly on my phone, which is really neat. And another thing that it was kind of fun to discover, the purple light you see in the back was actually flickering on the video. Maybe it's doing it a little bit right now too. I'm not sure why that is, but I know it's something that has to do with the frequency of the light and the frequency of the video. That together might be out of sync and you can see some flickering. So what I had to do is I had to lower a little bit the sensor speed of my camera to adjust that. As I said, using a DSLR camera is a little trickier, you have to learn the basics, but it gets you better results. The phone, on the other hand, will take care of all these things instantly and by itself, so you don't have to worry about aperture, sensor speed, ISO, you don't have to worry about any of this, but you get a little less of a result. And sometimes to go a little further and get a little better result, you have to walk a long way. What I am doing here, I have a Neumann U87 condenser microphone here close to me. And what it picks up, I'm an acoustic and electric guitar player, it picks up my voice when I sing and my guitar when I play the acoustic guitar. Then I have the line of my acoustic guitar running out, going into my acoustic guitar amp, and then direct into the interface, so that's my second signal. My third signal is actually a microphone in front of my electric guitar amp, which is the Fender back there, so I use my little pedal board, I run all my sounds, my distortion pedals in the amp, and then the amp gets mic'd up and sent to the interface, so that's my third line. And I was thinking to change this a little bit. I will probably change it because when I play the electric guitar, lots of the sound from my amp gets picked up from the Neumann. And I don't want that because it's very roomy. This is my apartment, I don't have any treatment. In my studio I don't have this problem because I have a boot for the amp, so I just hear what comes out of the speakers. But here I want to be comfortable, I want to play with an amp close to me. I mean, it's a live stream, I don't want to get too professional, I don't want to look at like a studio recording, at least for the live streams I'm doing now, and that's why I'm trying to compromise. So if I change this, I would go for a microphone right in front of my guitar, which can probably, my acoustic guitar, which will probably be this one or maybe a small condenser mic, a small diaphragm. A microphone for my voice that doesn't pick as much sound from the amp back there, which can be an SM58, which usually works like a charm on voice and is really close to my mouth, so I get lots of signal from my voice and I pick up less signal from my amp back there. Each individual track gets treated, in my case, from the Apollo console, which is, as I said, basically a mixer. So I put a good compressor on my condenser microphone, and I tweak the EQ a little bit. Then I put the same amount of compression on my acoustic guitar, so when I strum very hard, I shelf off a little bit of the picks. And I don't touch the electric guitar with compression, I never do, I don't like that. I like the compression that comes from overdrive, so I can always play with an overdrive on, even if I roll off my volume knob, so to get a clean sound. I set up a reverb, which I'm sending the vocals, mainly the vocals to, and a little bit to the pedal board, and a little bit to the guitar amps, so they get a little bit of stereo sound. I don't like stereo too much on a computer-based live stream, because the signal, when somebody hears it in mono, let's say from the speaker of your phone or your computer, that's basically mono, it's not really stereo. It sounds a bit stereo-ish, especially on new MacBook Pros, which have a very wide stereo field, but still I like to have a very strong mono central image and get a little bit of stereo depth with reverb. That's enough for me. Some people used to microphones, and that's fine, but that's just not what I like best. And the last thing I want to say is that your master signal, once you got all the 4, 3, whatever signals you have, blend into a master bus. What you want to do is limit the master bus so you can bring up the low levels and shelf off some of the peaks. As you might have noticed, some videos are louder and some are softer when you scroll through YouTube videos, and in most cases the loudest one seems the better one, which is not real. Actually, if you turn up the volume, probably the loudest one is the more crushed and compressed, but at the same time we live in this age where we just use crappy equipment to listen to music in most cases. So if you want to be sure that you get heard in the best way, you gotta level up a little bit your loudness. And you can do that with a limiting plugin on the master bus of your external mixer, or on your DAW, or on the Apollo console. That's a little tricky, but I found a way around using auxes. It doesn't seem to weigh too much on the CPU until you press either the record button or the live stream button. In both cases, the CPU starts to work a lot because it's making all the calculation you need to stream or to record, and usually it gets the fans running of the computer, the fans inside the computer, that can get noisy, and that is something that a musician don't want, especially if you're running audio with a condenser mic right close to you and the computer. I have the computer right in front of me, and that is noisy. I don't want that. So what I'd ended up doing is lowering the quality of the live stream to the point that I liked it, but it wasn't impacting too much my computer. And that point that I found for myself, but can be different for everybody depending on the machine you're using, I set it to 720p for streaming, for the video quality, and 25 frames per second. I wouldn't go over that. And for OBS, which is the software that we're using to encode our stream, I don't go over 2.5 megs of upload speed. I have an 8 meg limit with my connection, and I say that 2.5 is actually a safe limit. I won't get too much into OBS because there's tons of tutorials online, so you can go and check it out, but it's a free software and that's great. Unless you are using a very powerful desktop computer, I wouldn't recommend using the same computer for audio and video processing. So in the case you're using a DSLR camera especially, and then stream, I would recommend using either an external mixer or a UAD interface that can do the work by itself. If you load the computer with a software, a DAW, that's going to be risky for the performance of your live stream. Another thing I would like to add about the DSLR camera is that it's slower than the phone, and it needs to be compensated. Audio and video will be a little out of sync depending on the camera. This varies. I do have with my setup 250 milliseconds above that of latency. So the camera, the video signal, is late compared to the audio. But what OBS gives you is the opportunity, the ability to tweak this and put a delay on the audio. So the audio will be delayed enough to be put back in sync with the video. Thank you for joining me in this little tutorial. I hope it didn't get too complex, but if you have any questions, please shoot them in the comments. And if you didn't already, please subscribe to the channel so you can see more content like this. I'll see you. Bye.